Two. We got this guy.
And tell me why.
It's all that, here's the way you should write it.
That's what we met with them. The Kenders like this, and we said, so we wanted to reverse this year, so we wouldn't go. I did. Just sign in to.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
Oh. Oh, the deepers.
So I said, well, we need to do this.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Madam Lawyer.
Ran into Mary Pettigrew and her dad on the way out.
Oh, yeah, no,
He said, I have to give you a hug.
I know, I just love him. That's good. We're just getting started.
I see that.
You're gonna come talk to me?
No.
How are we doing?
There it is. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Boulder Valley School District for Tuesday, May 13th, 2014. Sandy, will you please call the roll?
Albright,
Here?
Belleville,
Here.
Benford. Here. Fuqua,
Here.
Marquis,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Reed.
Here.
And I'd like to just note that we heard Sam's note. He's not here or Sam saying, yes, he's here. He is not here in the room with us, but we're really thrilled to be doing this new approach with having him participate by audio. So Sam, we're glad to have you here today with us.
I appreciate you accommodating my request. Thanks.
Great, thank you. The next item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to remind everyone who has joined us here this evening that the vision of the Boulder Valley School District is as follows. We develop our children's greatest abilities and make possible the discovery and pursuit of their dreams, which, when fulfilled, will benefit us all. We provide a comprehensive and innovative approach to education and graduate successful, curious, lifelong learners who confidently confront the great challenges of their time. And the next item of business is the superintendent's report. Dr. Messenger.
Good evening, President Albright, members of the board. Good to have you here. I'd like to start my report off by reflecting on what many of us just did, and that was that we recognized members of our community, members of our faculty, those who have contributed greatly to our mission and the education of all children. So the Superintendent's Honor Roll, we do this twice a year, so a fun celebration with family and friends, and thank you all for being able to attend and celebrate with us, so I appreciate that. One of the things that I'd also like to mention this evening is I forwarded a note to you this afternoon, so you may not have had time to read it, but I just want to highlight a few aspects of it because it relates to our work session a week from tonight on May 20th. What's reflected in the memo I sent you is that the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, our group of community members who have been working upon the charge that you provided them over a year ago, they have completed their work. They have finalized their set of recommendations around facility needs for the Boulder Valley School District, and I sat in on many of those meetings and participated directly in a few, and they reached full consent on a package that will be presented to you a week from tonight. So part of what's in the memo is featuring that, and then also walking through a little bit of what our timeline will be. So next week you'll get materials in your packet ahead of time. Your electronic packet will be available to the public that describes the process we've worked through. Just you're pretty familiar with it because you've had reports on it. Just an update on that. Also give you a executive summary of both our community values meetings that occurred, that most of you attended one or the other. Of those that we hosted, 7, I believe, over the course of a couple of weeks. We also did a BVSD Listens, our virtual community session. So an executive summary there. There's a web link to the full reports of both of those that you'll be able to access as well, and including the package that from the prioritized needs that came out of the SIPSI committee a little over a week ago. So that'll all be in your agenda. So a week from tonight in a work session format. Don Orr is our lead on this, Assistant Superintendent for Operations. Will kind of take you through the information so you'll have a chance to look at it in advance. And then we hope that the evening of the 20th, the couple hours we have to focus on that, is a chance for you to ask clarifying questions to make sure that you fully appreciate what these folks have been working on for a year and our staff. And so then there's also a schedule of our work through June into August and beyond. So that's all featured in that memo. So if you didn't have a chance to look at it, when you do catch up with the email, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me directly, and I'll either be able to answer those or get you to Don Orr, who will be able to. So anyway, so the SIPSI committee or work session is a week from tonight, May 20th at 5 p.m. So looking forward to that. The other, I just wanted to feature, I'd sent you an email a week ago Monday, would have been yesterday, a week ago yesterday, on the 5th of May. We launched in kind of a major way our work around the strategic plan, and that was the day we brought together members of co-chairs and members of all of the action design teams, which are going to now go to work and putting together the design, the proposal for the plan, the work that they'll do, and their work will be completed on that by this late September, early October. So our steering committee has organized this work, and under Deirdre Pilch's leadership, we pulled everybody together, almost 200 folks, a week ago Monday, and so they've got some work to do between now and the fall. We're going to provide you a written update on this before the end of the school year, and so some more detail than what I'm sharing tonight will be included in that, but we see this as a major part of the launch. Then obviously we'll continue to provide you updates. So a lot of parents, a lot of faculty, community members, really nice cross-section of folks, many names you would recognize and some you might not. But when we put out a request for application for folks to serve on these committees, we were quite impressed with the response we got both from the community as well as our own faculty. So we're feeling really good about where we are with the process, and you can look forward to an update. And then I also want to recognize that last Thursday evening, many of us were together for the retirement reception. Again, thank you. I know you've all got lots of demands on your time, many from the school district, things we ask you to do. But it was a fun celebration of our employees who are retiring this year. Fun evening. We changed the format, and the credit union continues to be our sponsor. So that's a gift to us to be able to recognize our employees for a fun evening. And again, I appreciate you being there. And on a maybe a little more sober note, that because we've been doing a lot of celebrating, it's that season, a lot of graduations coming up, which we're excited about, is that I mentioned last meeting that we had finished the CMAS, which is the Colorado Measure of Academic Success assessment. So what we pushed out a week ago was a survey to all of our faculty and staff who might have had some way they were connected to that test administration, and actually it went to everyone. So if they piloted the PARC or have thoughts on the TCAP, so really it's just a chance for them to give specific comment about the CMAS assessment, things that worked well about it, some challenges with it, impact on classroom, all of those things. So a note went out from Tina Mew, president of the Boulder Valley Education Association, and myself, requesting our staff to participate in the survey. We've had a good, positive, meaning a high number of initial responses. We will analyze that data, prepare a report, which we'll share with you. One, we're curious, and we want to know what we hear back, what variability there might be across the district, if there is, and then why that might be. So that'll help educate us so we can, be more successful going forward. But also, as you know, under House Bill 1202, our legislature approved the formation of a commission, a task force that the legislative leadership will appoint by July 1st. It will have parents and teachers and school board members, a cross-section of folks. And so, one, we might have a chance to have somebody on that committee, which would be great. But certainly I know there will be opportunity for public input. So this report, for example, might be something that would be helpful to this committee. And then any personal testimony that educators or board members or others might want to give to this committee. My assumption would be there would be a public process, maybe in every one of their meetings, that we can provide input. So we just thought it was a good time to pause and just ask folks while it was fresh on their mind how things went, all the way from the use of technology to the nature of the test to just some of the challenges and impact on instruction, those kinds of things. So, President Albright, that concludes my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions about those items or other topics.
Great, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Are there any questions? I have a question.
Okay.
So you talked about the SIPSI report, that it would be available when?
So
When
it'll
can
come in
we-
your packet. So later this week, I guess, huh?
Is
Because it's
that
next week.
like
So Thursday.
I
You
mean,
can watch
so
it
it'll be
Thursday.
out Thursday.
So there'll be a PowerPoint, there'll be the package that they developed, the prioritized package, and then those other materials I mentioned. So I didn't mention the PowerPoint. So you'll see the PowerPoint in advance, which Don will work from when we walk through the presentation. So you'll have all that going into the weekend, so you'll have a chance. And really just know that the purpose of the work session really is to have you have a chance to ask questions or make comments, and it's just kind of the start of the process. But having a chance to review it in advance would probably help you with that.
So how extensive is that packet?
Well, everything together it'll be quite a bit, but what you'll see and what the SIPSI, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, approved is there's 3 categories of priorities, first, second, and third, and then there are needs beyond that they didn't include in their prioritized recommendations. So what you'll see is description of those items, those criteria that were used, cost associated with those, and so you'll really at a glance you can kind of see how they loaded the preferences. And then I didn't mention this, but there will also be included in this packet some definition of terms with some kind of expanded description. So what we call the FCA, the facility assessments that were done, and so there's a prioritization of those just as an example. So what Don will have included in this packet is a narrative that will describe what that FCA 1 means, what's in that expenditure package, not in excruciating detail, but enough that you can get your head around it. And then you'll see a dollar associated with it, and then the second prioritization, what kinds of things fall in there. So it won't be overwhelming. And then we'll work through tomorrow, next week, and then from your questions or additional information you may request, we certainly can provide that as well. But this will be at least a start, and then we can get going with that. Does that help, Lori?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I just hope there's enough information. I know you've been working on this for a year, so,
You'll-
I'm sure
by the
you've
end,
got a
you'll have-
lot.
yeah, there'll be a
And
lot.
we don't want to be overwhelmed,
Right.
but we do need to be able to
Yeah, we're
understand it.
by design, and if you have a chance to read the memo, by design, we're really trying to keep this at a board level for you so that, we have a lot of staff that have dug through, facility reviews and ranking sheets. And one of the things that isn't really unique, so I don't want to steal Don's show for next week, but one of the things you'll see when the packet arrives is the application of criteria around facilities and programs. And so with that criteria, really going building by building for 55 schools. And so some schools might have a lot of work to do in that category or that criteria, and others maybe less. Obviously, we have 2 brand relatively new schools, so they're probably not going to have the same kinds of needs a building that's 30, 40, 50 years old. But the category or the criteria is applied consistently across. And then there are some projects as well that will be listed in the priorities also, and those will be pretty self-descriptive when you see them. And again, you may have more questions about description. And then, so between the 20th of May and through the month of June is really a chance for us to answer questions, provide you enough information. And as you know, this is a recommendation that comes to you from a committee that you charge to do this work. And ultimately, it will be your decision how we go forward or what those priorities look like. They know they're handing it off to you, and I think they feel good about the work they've done.
Great.
Okay? Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any follow-up? Nope. Okay. The next item on our agenda is public participation, and we do have one speaker this evening. The board recognizes the value of public comment on issues related to the operation of the schools. To ensure that our meeting is conducted in an orderly manner, we ask that persons who address the board, 1, confine your comments to matters that are germane to the business of the school district. 2, limit your presentation to 2 minutes. If we go over the first hour, which we won't because we have one speaker. 3, recognize that students often attend or view our meetings. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. The board president may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement that is unrelated to the business of the district or inappropriate for K-12 students. There's a lighting system on the podium. It starts at green when there are 2 minutes, when your 2 minutes start, turns yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and it turns red at the end. When the light turns red, please wrap up your comments so that the board can hear from the maximum number of speakers. Again, we have one speaker this evening. So I would like to invite Kathy Gebhardt to please come and address the board. We're glad to see you again. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for allowing me to come and address the board. My light's on.
You're good.
Dr. Messenger, President Albright, members of the board, and staff, I just appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you. I know there's an action item today about Amendment 23, and I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that I was here to be supportive of any action that you take on it. I think it's a really important issue to address. As you say in the resolution, Amendment 23 passed with a wide margin of success in Boulder. It had its roots in Boulder and in Littleton. And the fact that the legislature has seen fit to not give that provision in the Constitution its full meaning, I think is something worth asking the court to interpret. As you all know, what the current interpretation is one that is coming from Legislative Legal Services, not from a court. And their job, not to be critical, is to expand the powers of the legislature, not necessarily to rule on whether the actions that the legislature is taking are constitutional. And what I think is happening is the way that it's being interpreted makes it look like a no vote is the same as a yes vote. It had modest goals, Amendment 23, was trying to get us back to 1988 funding levels. We're about $1 billion below that. When you think about that, it's pretty depressing. And so I think what we need to do is find out if those words in our Constitution have any meaning. So there are other school districts and entities that have stepped up, being willing to help challenge this, including the East Central BOCES, Colorado PTA, the Rural Caucus, several rural school districts, and I think that we could have an interesting coalition to take this to the courts and find out what the courts think of the legislature's interpretation of Amendment 23. So I appreciate you taking the time to consider what I think is a very important issue. Sadly, as you all know, given what I did in Lovato, this would not bring new money in, but it would certainly set us on a path to get back to what I think the citizens voted for when they voted yes on Amendment 23. How's that?
Wrap it right up. Thank you. Thank you very much. What's next? The next item on our agenda is board communication. Board members, any comments or updates? No? Jenny?
Thank you for coming tonight, Kathy. I'm going to tie you into my comments. It's kind of a busy time of year. There are lots of things that board members can attend, so I'd just like to generally comment that I've appreciated being invited to everything I've been invited to and always enjoyed the things I've been able to attend. So thank you out there for those invitations and for the wonderful work you're doing with students. I'd just like to comment really briefly on the importance of all kinds of people and partnerships in our school district. I was reflecting tonight as we were listening to the superintendent's honor roll at the wide variety of people, all different kinds of people who have impacts on our students, from not just teachers but bus drivers and campus monitors and parent volunteers. And so I just wanted to reflect on how important those kinds of partnerships are for our community, and also, so I'd like to mention another couple that I think are really important. Penn, the Parent Engagement Network, had its luncheon, whenever it was, Monday. whenever it was, I can't even remember anymore. But that's been a very important way for parents and community to support our families and our students, and I'm always honored to be able to attend that luncheon and grateful for their work. And then Lori and I last night attended another kind of parent group called Parity, that's aimed at educating some of our Latino parents about the best ways to advocate for their students in the schools, and to and sort of educating them about how our school system works. And I think I was able to go to their meeting with the board last year, and I think it's a great group and a great idea, and the quality of the parent engagement is really wonderful. And I got to tell you, they kind of held our feet to the fire about the kinds of opportunities they wanted for their children, and the kinds of the ways in which they thought our district could be helpful. There weren't very many softball questions for us. So, but I appreciated that too. So, and then another kind of community partner that we rely on are people like Ms. Gebhardt out there, who care enough about the funding for Colorado students to be working on this lawsuit, mostly pro bono, I think. So I'd just like to throw out an appreciation for all the different kinds of people that interact with our students and all the community partnerships we have. We couldn't do nearly as good a job without them.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. I would just add, Jenny, there was one other group that I attended, and many of us did, was at Ryan Elementary with their project with STREAM, which is a partnership with Impact on Education, the foundation that supports our school district, and they've done some amazing work in many of our schools, and it was really fun to be out at Ryan and see some of the work. And there also have been some neat music events. I went to an event at Fairview with the Knights of Stars, went to the high school art opening at the Dairy, and a really special event was at Manhattan Middle School for the Diversity Day. And it was a very special event put on by kids with a partnership from a women's chorus. So we're seeing some really interesting and important work that's emerging at the end of the year, as kids are wrapping up the program. So thanks, I agree with you. Thanks to people who have really contributed to help our district. I think that's it for board communication. The next item on our agenda is an informational item, the third quarter financial statements. Dr. Messenger.
So a week ago, we met with audit committee members and reviewed the third quarter financials. You know, that's our protocol. So we did that, and then included in your packet this evening is the background that Leslie and Bill prepared, and then the materials are included. And so things are as we had projected they would be at this point from our mid-year, and so we don't have a presentation this evening, but we would be glad to answer any questions that you might have, and members of the audit committee might choose to comment, but the materials are in your packet, and things are on track as we anticipated they would be at this point.
Board members. Sam?
No, as you know, I serve on the audit committee, and I got a thorough overview at that meeting, but thanks for asking.
Okay, great, thanks. First, it looks like we don't have any other questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or questions that you might have anticipated that we might have asked?
No, I think what we shared with the audit committee is that we are expending at the rate that we anticipated, and so we are looking at the imbalance that we had projected that was actually built into the budget. We reviewed at mid-year, so I think stable is where we are, and so we don't anticipate any surprises. I mean, the one area that we talked at some length about with the audit committee was around the recovery for expenses associated with the flood. So our staff, under Leslie's leadership, Leslie Stafford, our Chief Financial Officer, we're following all the steps we need to follow. Basically, FEMA acts once all insurance issues are taken care of. So really that's where the bulk of our activity is now, is providing information, answering questions. So just the collection of those payments is probably slower than we would like, but we're working through the process. So we had some conversation. So I think we're on track, and in a 2 weeks, I guess 2 weeks from tonight, you'll have before you again the proposed budget for 2014-15. But this year's budget, 13-14, is very much on schedule. So again, if you didn't have a chance and you look at the materials more in depth, don't hesitate to email me directly or to Leslie if any of you have follow-up. But I think we're where we expected to be at this time.
Okay. Jenny?
I've got a couple of questions, and I apologize if I'm asking questions that aren't right because I left my notes at home.
That's all right.
Unfortunately, it's not one of my better afternoons. So I'm noticing that, we adopted a new salary schedule for teachers at our last contract 2 years
Yes.
ago. And I'm wondering if and the rate at which our employee costs are going up, is it sustainable? I mean, I'm just wondering about if we're worried about that or not, because it looked like our costs had gone up about $11 million this year, and
So one of the things I would state is that we're watching it very closely. I mean, as you recall, those of you that were involved in the discussion 2 years ago when we made the commitment, is that there was a projection, both timeline and a trajectory of costs associated with it. Part of it is that we called this a transition salary schedule. I would say we're in transition in that you might recall there was some changing in the structure itself, that removal of columns, moving people out of columns, and the fostering continuing education. And so we're still in that process. So, there was a phase in of this. Overall, so that we're still in process with that. But I think as far as Bill and his team, and we work closely with Tina Mew, President Association, and Bill Lopez, who's the UNICEF rep that worked with us as we built this contract. So I think the trajectory we feel good about. The one thing that we've noticed is that, which is not really a surprise, I don't think, is that we aren't seeing quite the same number of retirements on the average that we maybe saw before. And so our attrition, our savings in this budget we're building for next year isn't, probably as great. But again, I think some of that is folks who might be approaching retirement are, maybe utilizing this opportunity to stabilize their salary on the schedule. I mean, obviously, you only do that so long. So having done some of this work before in my career, I mean, what this kind of significant adjustment we made is it can kind of interrupt the pattern a bit. So it will get back to a pattern, but that's just one that we're watching. I don't know that what we expected exactly to happen, but when we built this budget and looked at expenditures as well as savings through retirements, it's probably a little bit different than the percentage pattern we've seen before. But we believe that will catch back up with itself over time. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some natural out-migration of all employees, not just teachers, through retirement. But sometimes notable changes like this can alter that pattern. But, I mean, ultimately, to answer your question, basically, Jenny, it depends on a lot of things. And one of those is obviously our continued support from the state. So when we open the contract up a year from now, this will be the third year of 3 years. We've talked some. We just had a meeting this afternoon with association leadership to review the third quarter financials. I mean, this will be an opportunity for us to answer some of those questions. What are we seeing? What we thought we would see, and if not, why not? How's it varying? And then I think we'll want to do some market analysis at that time, like we're doing with our other employee groups, just to see at least how our staff in all categories, but this group, teachers compared to other districts, our peer districts in the state and maybe the region. So we'll do a deeper analysis as we, kind of have the whole package back open again. And as you know, our continued cost for Public Employee Retirement Association continues to go up as per legislative guidance on that, as well as this year for next, and this year present, we had a 7.5% increase in health benefits. Now, that's all employees. That affects every employee of the district. So, I mean, it's something we continue to monitor very closely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking, Jay.
Any follow-up questions or any other comments? Okay, well, I would just say thank you to staff for keeping a close eye on the budget.
Absolutely.
Bruce, you and the business staff, thank you for your work on making sure that we're on target for this year. The next item on our agenda is the consent grouping, which tonight consists of personnel items, approval of minutes, April 22nd, 2014, approval of minutes, May 8th, 2014, acceptance of donation from El Dorado K-8, and non-renewal of contracts. Do I have a motion to approve?
The BVSD wireless contract? And it might not have been
Okay.
on that paper copy
And
I
a
handed you.
BVSD wireless contract. which we have in front of us, but I don't have it on this sheet.
So we can just add it later in the week, so.
Okay.
that might not be on the copy, but it's in your electronic agenda.
It's in our electronic file. Okay, so it's there as well. Wireless contracts. Shelley has moved. Is there a second? Jenny, a second. Is there any discussion, comments, questions? Do you? No? Sam, you still there?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no discussion on these consent groupings, Sandy, will you please call the roll?
Albright,
Yes.
Belville,
Yes.
Benford, Fuqua,
Yes.
Marquis,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item on our agenda is a resolution 14-09 in support of litigation regarding the interpretation of Amendment 23. Do I have a motion to approve? Jenny, is there a second? Jim? Is there any discussion? Jim?
Well, I'd build upon what Kathy spoke to us about earlier, which was just this amendment was passed, and I know as a taxpayer and a voter for this, I thought it had I thought it was going to do certain things, and it hasn't done those things. And I think the reason that the legislature hasn't been able to do those things is because they're relying on an opinion of somebody who isn't a court member. And while I'm kind of reluctant to sue the state, I kind of think that it's our job to stand up for the citizens who originally voted for this and all of my neighbors who kind of are confused as to what happened to Amendment 23. I mean, serving on the board, it's kind of this inside baseball. We've followed it really closely. My neighbors are just really confused. How could they do that? Why could they do that? Maybe it's legal, maybe it's not, but I think rather than relying on somebody's opinion, I'd like to have a court tell me whether it's legal or not, and if it's not, then we know and we can go do something else about it. So I'm going to be in support of this, and I'm glad BVSD is stepping up, and I'm glad and very proud to have Kathy be a part of our community so that she can help us through these things. Thank you.
Any other comments? Jenny?
Well, I'm planning to support this resolution for many of the reasons that Kathy brought to us earlier, and for the reasons, and I agree with you, Jim. I think a lot of our citizen voters are really confused about what happened to Amendment 23, and I actually wouldn't be at all surprised if that had something to do with our difficulty in getting voters to support additional funding for public education. In a couple of previous years, because I think a lot of people think that they already voted to support public education and with reason, don't trust the legislature to, I think they really don't understand what they're being asked to do and perhaps don't trust the legislature to spend the money that they would vote for public education because they see that Amendment 23 is not being followed. And so I think that we probably, as I think about it, would be better off with a ruling one way or the other without leaving people with the impression that Amendment 23 is out there and not being followed. So I might almost even, I won't be happy if the court doesn't enforce Amendment 23, but I think we'll be better off knowing what Amendment 23 means. So, and I'd like to thank Ms. Gebhardt and the attorneys who you're working with for bringing this effort forward.
Other comments? Well, I'll make a statement. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Tom. Sorry, I just didn't see your hand. There we go. Thank you, Tom.
So, you know, certainly when I voted for Amendment 23, the language and the purposes that I think all the voters were led to believe was that this is going to catch us up in school funding because we were behind on the average, and then provide a method by which we can grow with inflation. And obviously, we haven't done that. In fact, that's why we're down $1 billion now, because at least the intent of Amendment 23 wasn't followed by our legislature. So I'm anxious to see resolution on this. I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric and arguing going back and forth, and every budget session this happens again. And then, of course, we talk about it a lot, being underfunded here and on our board table, as well as the other 178 districts across the state. So I think it's time to come that we need to come to a resolution and put this to bed. It's either one way or the other, and like Jim, then we can move forward with deciding what to do based upon, that resolution of what Amendment 23 is, because what I believe we all believe here and what the legislature has demonstrated are two different things. So I'm in support of this.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm
Shelley?
raising my hand here
Oh.
on the phone.
Sam?
I would just chime in that, I know there are state lawmakers who care deeply about funding public education and are frustrated as well. It's deeply disappointing to me that we even have to consider legal action to get sufficient public school funding in our state. But at this point, I agree with Jim and the other folks who have commented that going to court is really the only option here to get a court ruling on Amendment 23. So I'm going to be voting in favor, and I appreciate Kathy's comments, appreciate hearing that there are rural districts and other folks lining up to be part of this as well, because I think we need to do it.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, Shelley?
I would just like to agree with everything that's been said. I support this resolution, and I'd just like to add that I'm very proud of Boulder Valley School District for stepping up and showing some leadership among the larger school districts to do this. I think it's really important that we do. So,
Thanks. Dana? No? Okay. I would just add, I'm very proud to be a supporter of this resolution. And I would like to thank those people who came before us, including especially Julie Phillips and Jean Benelli, who sat at this table and were some of the impetus behind this initiative. I think that we're walking in their footsteps, and I'm proud of Boulder Valley for being a part of this. I appreciate the work of the attorneys today, Kathy, and your team of attorneys, high-powered lawyers who have looked at this carefully, our own lawyers who have looked at this, and I think it's real important that it's grounded in a lot of analysis. And I'm very hopeful of the outcome that we will end up with additional funding for our kids. We continue to hear how people want additional services. They want longer day, they want longer year, they want bilingual counselors. We know that smaller class size will make a difference. We know there are a lot of things that we should be doing for our children that we're not able to do. And I'm hopeful that with a positive outcome with this lawsuit, that we will end up with funds to do some of the things that we know that we absolutely have to do in Colorado. So it's why I'm supporting it. So are there any other comments? Well, with that, Sandy, will you please call the roll?
Albright?
Yes.
Belleville?
Yes.
Benford? Yes. Fuqua?
Yes.
Marquise?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Terrific. So we'll be a plaintiff on this lawsuit. Thank you for coming tonight, Kathy. Okay, the next item on our agenda is study items for agenda setting. Are there any comments from board members about what we want to be looking at in either the near future or the long-term future that we'd like the agenda setting committee to look at? We have a full plate, so it's okay if you don't have too many new ideas coming up. Are there any ideas? Jenny?
This is not an idea, but I think that it's worth mentioning because we have some good conversations in agenda setting that other board members don't need to get. But I think it's our intention as an agenda setting committee to try to align agendas in the future with our strategic plan going forward. And I just, so that the topics have, I kind of look for, I definitely look forward to that as far as, having the work of the board align closely with the work of the district and fall out in some kind of logical and consistent way. Not that it hasn't in the past, but I think that's something we can all look forward to. So just a comment about what we've talked about in agenda setting in the past.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I know that we've talked about a number of items in the past that we haven't addressed yet. is, I know there's a sheet kept of those items requested that haven't been fulfilled. Can we all get access to that?
So are those on the
Or
Google
just send
Docs?
us a link? so
It's in
we
the
can
Google
always-
Docs, Tom. So,
Is it in Google
yeah,
Docs?
so when we
Okay.
update that, when we have the session, but if you want, we can push it.
Yeah, so
separately.
I can find
Yeah,
it easy. It'd be
yeah,
great. Thank you.
Yeah, but we do maintain that and update it on Google Docs, and that's what we work off with agenda settings, so.
And it's a good thing to look at the end of the year, and, you know, to kind of keep an assessment of where we are. And those of us on agenda setting look at it, but fair enough to have a look at it. Good. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, well, with that, I guess we're adjourned. Is that right?
Oh,
It's kind of a short meeting. Okay.
That's right, you got
Tonight.
plenty coming, yeah.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.